To India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 71. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
But that's not going to happen. So instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
Today we're talking to Lexi. Lexi is a young, up-and-coming, awesome person who works at a law firm but does not identify as someone who works at a law firm. I don't know.
How does that work?
It's true.
I just think of Lexi as a reader and a writer and an introvert and a lovely nerd.
And how I get my money is a law firm, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
For books.
And tattoos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just those.
Welcome, Lexi. I feel like the closer I am to our guests, the worse intros I do for them because I try to say
accurate.
too much insider stuff.
Wait, so are you saying that you're close to our guest, Cheryl?
Yes. Lexi was a high schooler and I volunteered with high schoolers at our church. And my fun fact about Lexi is that she put her birthday in my phone when I first met her and I was getting her contact info, but she put the birth year as the current year. And I didn't notice until the following year when my laptop told me that Lexi's first birthday was that day.
Yeah.
And that was like probably 10 years ago at this point. I don't know. And so I think she's about 10 now.
Yeah, that's very accurate. And see, my fun fact about Cheryl is that I peer pressured her into getting her first tattoo. So,
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
When we lived
talent
together,
to have.
she was like, hey, my favorite tattoo place is doing a walk-ins day. You already have the drawing you want. Let's go do it. And
she had no reason not
we did
to.
it.
And it was great.
Yeah. And that's why she was successful, is because she logicked and peer pressured me into doing it. So,
It was amazing.
Well, and then, Lexi, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm remembering is your first international trip
Yes.
was the trip that we did.
Yes, we went to
Is that correct?
Slovenia together in 2013. I remember that.
Yeah, and then it was our flight home because we had to go a day later, right? It was you, me, and Kristen, right?
Yep.
And we flew back on a different flight than the rest of the team. And do you remember that they bumped us
We
to
got
business
bumped
class?
up to business class, and it was beautiful.
It was amazing.
What, a 10-hour flight, reclining
man.
chairs, delicious food. It
Yep.
was a good day.
that's great.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Oh, I
Yep.
love that. That's wonderful. I'm also thinking about Lexi and travel and tattoos and remembering that you have gotten at least one tattoo while on a trip in a different country, correct?
Yes, that was in my Ireland trip. First thing I
That
did after
scares
finding
me.
food was getting a tattoo.
Wow.
It's fine.
Is that a tradition that you would like to continue on future trips abroad?
Yes. I have not done that in the few, visiting friends in the States, but next time I travel abroad, I definitely want to get a tattoo in that
Oh my
place.
gosh. Oh boy.
So how many tattoos do you currently have?
I officially lost count.
Okay. All right. So you are
last
big
time I
into
checked,
tattoos.
it was like 20 or 21. So
I
we'll
was
see.
You're
I
going to run out
guess
of space
20.
eventually.
Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
lots of
and
space.
hers are like big art pieces too,
Big.
so she will run out of space. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, it's fun whenever I see Lexi. She'll just be like, "Look at my thigh; it's covered in ink now," and I'm like, "That's gorgeous."
Yeah, I just got my second dragon tattoo on my thigh, so now both my thighs are covered. So
Dang.
So each thigh has a dragon?
yes,
Are they the same dragon or different
no,
dragons?
my left thigh has a forest dragon with like flowers, and it's just very pretty. And then my right thigh has a ocean dragon with like crystals and bubbles and like beta fin wings. So
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
very happy.
And
with
what
them.
did you get on your trip?
Yeah, so my trip to Ireland, I really love the poet William Butler Yeats. So I got a poem, and he's from Ireland. So I got a poem a tattoo based on my favorite poem by him. So I got a little like mouse with berries and the moon behind him, based on a few lines from my favorite poem.
So did you have a basic design idea for that and
I
then went
had-
into a parlor and had them do it, or did they kind of have something similar already?
Yeah, I had the basic idea, just the keywords that I wanted, which was a moon, red berries, ferns, and a mouse. And they just took those, put into a little tattoo for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Creative.
So it
love
doesn't
it.
say the words of the poem, but it's just representative of the poem. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
clever.
yeah.
I love it.
So, Lexi, we have a set of questions that we like to ask each of our guests. The first one is, why do you travel?
Necessity, usually. This is going to be good for a travel podcast. I'm not big into travel. It's very anxiety inducing. So usually when I do travel, it's like I have a wedding to go to. I have an event to go to. I have friends I have to see. Like, it's not usually travel for travel's sake.
Yeah. I
So.
mean, you are not the only person who feels that way about
Good.
travel. So I think that's great that you bring that perspective to our podcast. I don't think it's a bad
Yes.
thing at all.
Absolutely. So then I want to hear, before we continue, as someone who has anxiety while traveling, what's something that increases your anxiety while traveling, and what's something that helps you decrease your anxiety while traveling?
Decreasing is being early to everything. I'm usually like 2 hours earlier than you're supposed to be to the airport, just because I take the bus usually, and if I miss the bus, I take a Lyft or an Uber, but I have to be there early. I cannot risk missing, like being late for anything. In increasing my anxiety, literally everything, just making sure that I have tickets, making sure I have everything, making sure I have enough money to get stuff I forget. Yeah. I always have a book on me in case I get bored, but I'm always too anxious to read the book. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I usually bring at least 2 books on the flight with me to read. And once we're in the air, I'm fine. But I have like an extra 2 hours where I could be reading, but I'm just kind of anxiously waiting for there to get on the plane.
So the plane itself is not what makes you anxious then?
No. Forgetting
Is it more
stuff.
like the idea that you might miss the
I
plane?
might miss the
or-
plane. I might forget my phone or my wallet or my passport or whatever else it's very important to bring. Like, yeah. A lot of issues.
Clothes.
Clothes, yeah. I've had that nightmare a few times.
Oh.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is different than some other people's travel anxiety, because some people are just really anxious about air travel. So that's interesting. That I think a lot of your worries with travel are probably a lot of people's, but maybe you just feel it more strongly.
Yes. That's a good way to describe who I am. Yeah, absolutely. And I have a lot of anxiety, too, of just, like, being not at my apartment. Just if I'm traveling somewhere, like, I don't have the same experience in that area. I don't know how to get around in that area. I don't know where to find things in that area. I'm not as comfortable places that are not my home. So,
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
a homebody.
I'm a homebody for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you are visiting someone, does that help you feel more comfortable in your trip?
Yes and no. A lot of it's just stuff that nobody can help me with, I guess. That sounds sad. Like, I've visited friends 3 times last year, twice to Boston and once to Tucson,
Wow.
Arizona. And, like, they're super fun trips and everything, but my anxiety and desire to be home did not change. So, and like in Boston, my friend had a car. We could drive places if I forgot something. In Arizona, we didn't really. It was for a wedding, so less chance to fix mistakes I might have made on coming over there. Yeah.
So the next question kind of builds off of your answer to the first one. What type of traveler are you?
Anxious. Yeah.
I wondered if that's what you were going to say.
Anxious and early.
Anxious and early. Yeah, that's pretty much me. Yeah, anxious early, and I overpack for sure. I like to overpack.
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
Just so you're prepared.
yeah, just like too many options for clothing, a bunch of makeup that I won't need, a bunch of anything that I don't need. Yeah, so the only thing that I do not overpack is books. I always bring way too many or just enough.
Wait. If you bring way too many, isn't that overpacking?
I was looking at my books and I was thinking, I need to read more books. I have way too many books.
Right before we started recording, Lexi showed us around her room, and it's just books. Like, I
Oh my
think
gosh,
you should
so
get
many
rid of your
books.
bread frame and just replace it with books.
Yeah, that's
You're
a
like
good
a
idea.
storybook character.
Surrounded in books.
Yep. Have you taken those Disney quizzes? Are you Belle from Beauty
Yeah,
and the
I'm Belle,
Beast?
for sure.
Okay. All right.
No,
Yeah. Sounds
the
about
only
right.
thing I don't, I guess, feel like I overpack is books because I always need that many books. If that makes sense.
I mean, that sounds like travel for an introvert.
Yes. But when I went to Boston, I was there for, I think, 4 or 5 days. And I did read all the books I had,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
awesome. I think I finished one on the plane, and then I was like, okay, cool. I'm done with these books. And that was a happy end for that trip. And no matter how many books I do bring, I will read them all. Like,
Wow.
I'll read all the books I bring.
Yeah, me too. That's totally what happens. I definitely don't pack a book and then read the first 15 pages on the plane and then never look at it again. That definitely never happens to me.
So I think I might have mentioned on this podcast before that I like to, if I'm traveling alone, one thing I like to do is find a restaurant with a good view and just like order a glass of wine and have my Kindle and read, and I can like have the people walking by. And I had a book that was written by a friend of mine, and I think I read it over several years because several times
Oh, wow.
I sent her a picture of my Kindle next to my glass of wine with like the view in the background. I was like, look, I'm reading your book in Boston. Look, I'm reading your book in San Diego. And then I realized after doing that a couple of times, I was like, oh, wow, apparently I only read while I travel because it wasn't a super long book. It's just I don't read very much.
Yeah, there you go.
So funny.
Oh, my
I've
goodness.
ever not finished a book.
Oh, my
You
goodness.
never not
I
finished a
don't
book.
think so. I'm sure there's some from high school that I did not like that I started reading for class. I never finished.
Wow.
Yeah.
But-
That's impressive.
Since in recent memory, I finished every book I read.
You need to do that for Two Truths and a Lie. Or never
That'd be a
have
good
I
one.
ever.
That'd be a good one.
Either one.
Yep. All right, Lexi. So what is your number one travel tip?
Be early. Because
Yep,
being
that
late's the
sounds
worst
about
thing ever. This might not be actually a good travel tip. This is just my travel tip for myself.
That's
Is
okay.
I only feel good if I am 3 hours early for a flight.
So the question is there such a thing as too early?
No. As long as I have a book or a phone, and then no such thing.
Oh, see, that's what
man.
you're able to like keep yourself occupied with things.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
were talking earlier about your anxiety level. So does having a book help your anxiety go down?
Yeah, I would say so. It gives me something to do
Okay.
when I'm not sure what I should or can be doing. And it's a great way to pass the time for me that
Nice.
kind of takes me away from whatever anxiety. Also, just in general, reading is a good way to reduce my anxiety in life. Just taking myself out of whatever real life situation I'm in and putting myself into fantasy or sci-fi or even horror sometimes feels better than real life. So I like that escapism of it.
Nice.
So.
I'm glad you figured that out for yourself. That's cool.
Did.
How long did it take you before you figured that out for yourself?
A little ironically, it was the poem that I got a tattoo of that kind of helped me figure that out.
Really?
From Ireland.
Really?
Just
Why?
because, well, the poem is The Stolen Child, and there is a part of the chorus, I guess, of the poem goes, come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world more full of weeping than you can understand. And sort of the idea of like escaping from the real world to the fairy world. I was trying to figure out why I loved that, and besides just the imagery of fairies taking children, I kind of realized that that's something I do with fantasy, and I love just kind of escaping that way.
All right, Lexi, what trip are you going to be telling us about today?
Yes, I would like to talk about my study abroad trip to Ireland that I took a few years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the first question that I have to ask is, you said that travel makes you anxious and that you prefer not to travel and you only travel when you absolutely have to. So why would you decide to travel, study abroad, which would require you to travel?
Ireland is the only place I've ever had a desire to go to. And I mean, I sound like a Yeats fangirl, and I am, but it was because of reading Yeats as a kid and just falling in love with the imagery that he uses for describing the Irish countryside and how Irish politics go into Irish fairy tales, especially. Yeah, so I had been reading Yeats poems for a long time, so I always had a desire to go to Ireland. And then when my school offered a study abroad trip, if you are a creative writing major, I knew I had to do that.
Everything lined up.
It lined up perfectly. It was a creative writing major, so there are only two study abroad trips I could have taken, and the other one I hated the teacher, so it felt even more perfect that I got to go to country.
Where was the other one to?
The other one was Americans in Paris, with a very, very sexist teacher who I did not like. And so I was very happy not to do that one and instead go to Ireland and write poems. And especially the culture of Ireland being a very good literary spot to be a literary person. So
was the coursework that you did specifically on poetry?
It was creative. It was a writer's workshop. So both the teachers that we had were poets first, storytellers second, and so the class was more geared towards poetry, which is not my forte, but it was still had a big emphasis on writing in general, and we got to do our last project on fiction if we wanted to. So it was mostly poetry, but fiction as well.
So this sounds a little bit different to me than some other study abroad programs. Was it one group from one school that did this all together, and the professors were from your school and traveled with you? Okay.
It was CLU students only. It was a strictly creative writing English course. So I think there were 13 students total.
Okay, so you're saying it's with your group and everything. And so how long was this course then?
It was a three-week course. There were 12 students, I believe, and 2 teachers. One was a professor at CLU. The other one once was a teacher at CLU, but he only teaches the Ireland course now. But he is a poet who lives on, I think, Whidbey Island. Yeah, he lives on Whidbey Island. He built his house. He has no internet in his house. He just writes poetry. He was super awesome. Yes.
He lives back in time.
They don't even have plumbing in their house, which was the best thing I've ever heard.
I'm sorry. How is that the best thing you've ever heard? No plumbing? Okay,
an old man living on an island with no plumbing is a very wonderful thing. He just writes poetry. That's his life.
I feel like you should go on that island and then tell me that it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It fits him. He's a very nature person, so it was really fun to has somebody like that, and he's big on Ireland. He loves Ireland, and he also, his other passion is bookbinding. So I got to learn a little bit about that.
Of course it is.
Oh, it gets better. When we were at one of the museums in Dublin, he got into a conversation with museum staff on how they bound these copies of the Gospels that were from, I don't even know when, some of the oldest copies we have of the Gospels. And he was talking to them about bookbinding and binding those and how it worked and everything.
Wow.
I mean, I still think my favorite part of this person's life is that the only course he teaches is a study abroad for 3 weeks. And then he's just like, I'm out. I did my job. Like, Ryan, what if that was your teaching gig?
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
I mean, he also publishes his poetry. That's something that makes most of his money. Is he's published poetry. So.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, well, okay, fine then.
Yeah.
don't
Start writing
think I can
poetry,
do
Ryan,
that.
and then you can do that.
Yeah, the extent of the poetry that I've ever written is like a haiku, and I'm not even that good at those.
Oh
No
boy.
one's good at
Can I
haikus.
share my favorite haiku with you guys, though?
Yes, please.
Haikus are easy, but sometimes they don't make sense. Refrigerator.
Yeah, that's a haiku. You're right.
Yeah, that is. Okay,
all I can say for it.
congratulations.
Lexi, you had Ireland built up in your head as the only place that you were interested in traveling to because of these poems and fairies. Did it live up to the hype? Was it worth it?
Absolutely. Dublin itself, the city itself, felt a lot like Seattle, which is my favorite place in the world. Had, I feel like, the same soul almost as Seattle, but older.
A lot older.
Well, yes, lots older. And the countryside was just beautiful, and the places that we went to were very storied and very... The history that was in the places that we went to was very, very, like, in tune with what I like. It was very much in my wheelhouse. Just like going to the James Joyce Tower in Sandy Cove, which was where he, like, lived for, I think, a weekend, where he was just very drunk, and that's like what we got to hear about was James Joyce's life in this one place. It's fine.
The drunk James Joyce Tower. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know why we don't hear more about that.
Can something
it was just
count
very
as
hung out.
living somewhere if it was only a weekend?
It's just a weekend. I know, right?
I think it was just a weekend.
Then I've lived in a lot
But yeah,
of
it was
places.
that was so. Well, I think the reason why that tower is the basis for the inspiration for his book Ulysses, which is, you know, his big book. That's his masterpiece was Ulysses, and he wrote it. He wrote it when he was living in Paris, but it's based on like living in this one tower for a weekend.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm probably totally wrong that about being a weekend. but-
Staying in this one tower for a weekend.
I know. That's what I'm wondering.
Okay, so
boy.
you were in Dublin. Did you stay in Dublin for the whole 3 weeks?
We were there for 2 weeks. We stayed at Trinity College, which was the best.
Oh, how
It
cool.
was so wonderful. Just walking out and just buildings older than America, probably. Yeah, that was amazing.
I feel like I got to look that up now.
And,
Buildings older than
probably
America.
like that on that. I mean, the Book of Kells is in Trinity College, which is older than America. I am positive.
Established in 1592.
Yeah. So significantly older than America. The Book of Kells is kept on campus, and the Book of Kells is dated for the 9th century.
Yikes.
So, yeah, way older. Then we took a train to Galway and stayed there for a week, plus 1 day in the Aran Islands.
Okay, we're going to have to come back to this in just a sec, but you're going to have to tell me about the Aran Islands because I have not been to the Aran Islands. So
Aran?
hold that thought. Just to make sure that people, if people don't have a map in front of them and aren't familiar with the geography of Ireland, Dublin is on the eastern side of the island and Galway is on the western side of the island, almost straight across from each other, right?
Yeah, we took a train, like, directly from one state to the other.
Okay. So they're on two different kind of sides of the island. And then, so you said you were 2 weeks in Dublin and 1 week in Galway?
Yes.
So how did the two cities compare? Because I mean, Dublin's the biggest city in the Republic of Ireland, and I think Galway is the second. I could probably Google that too.
Yeah, so Dublin felt like a city. There were tons of places to go. It was extremely busy and noisy. Big nightlife, students, old guys at pubs. There was a lot of life there. Galway had the same amount of life, but it felt like a park compared to Dublin. It was just absolutely tiny. And maybe I have a very bad sense of what makes a city, but it was very small. There was like one main road where everything was on that we walked down a bunch, and that was a road where I don't remember there being a lot of cars on that road. Maybe none at all, but it was just like musicians everywhere, people doing art sketches and like beggars and just like performances. It was a very, very noisy street, but that was pretty. And then there was the waterfront, but that was kind of the only two parts of Galway that I got to see. So I feel like that's all there was.
Gotcha. Okay, just for the internet update, I was incorrect. Galway is not the second largest city. Dublin is the largest. Galway is the fourth largest city after Cork and Limerick.
Okay, didn't go to either of those places.
As of 2016.
Good to know. How long was the train ride? Because we're talking about one side of the country to the other, but smaller country than we're used to.
2 hours.
Nice. Great. So very
Yeah,
doable
it felt like 2 hours, which, it was awesome. Might have been a little longer, and I'm just misremembering it, but that was a very fun train ride. Just
What made it fun?
seeing I think it's just like I could stare out the window the entire time and see the entire country, and it was just a beautiful flat. I don't know, it was just very lovely, and it was just very, very fun to be able to see an entire country that way on a single train ride.
Oh, that's magical.
That's very cool. Okay, so tell me about the Aran Islands.
Yes, the Aran Islands were great. We took I think there are 3 islands that are just off the coast of Galway. We took a boat there.
Okay.
A pretty small boat, and it was kind of stormy
Like a
weather,
rowboat?
honestly. I was not quite a rowboat, a bit bigger than that. And they had at least 13 people on it, so bigger than rowboat.
That would be a large rowboat.
Very large rowboat, yes, exactly. We stayed
only 13
in this
people
hostel,
is not a lot.
which was very, very cold. But yeah, the Aran Islands are just this beautiful little.
Wait, so did you stay overnight on the Aran Islands?
Yeah, stayed overnight. And there's almost nothing there. There's a little like grocery stop that feels a bit more like a convenience store, and that's the only place you can buy soap and stuff.
Wow.
I think there were 2 restaurants. Then there was the gift shop for the sweaters, because the Aran Islands are famous for their wool. So there was just
okay, that makes sense. I was
tons of
picturing
sweaters.
like a graphic tee kind of sweater. So this is in a different direction than that.
Yeah, no, it was a very
So
like your grandma's sweater.
Nice. So you're saying there's hardly anything there. Was that like in a good way?
Yes, in a good way.
Okay.
I mean, what was there was really, really cool, but for the most part, it felt like just an empty island. And so we visited a few parts of this island specifically. Mostly, we went to see the wormhole, which does it does sound very sci-fi. It's just this hole on the island that you can. I think there's like diving competitions off of it. Really scary. I did not get that close to it, so I could not tell you a whole lot about it.
Wait, what is it? I'm sorry. It's a hole in what that leads where?
It's a hole in the ground.
Just in the ground that just goes down?
Yes.
But you're saying something about diving. Can you explain more?
I think it dives into the ocean.
Oh, okay. So not just a hole in the ground, but like there's a hole that goes into the ocean.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I'm looking at pictures now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at pictures too.
That looks very man-made. Is it man-made?
I don't think so.
That's
Oh, it's
such
like
it's a
rectangular.
rectangle. Yeah.
It's super interesting. I did not get that close to it, so I can't really tell you a whole lot about it.
It just looks like someone tried to build their own pool at the beach.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
look at it at high tide. It's so cool. I want to go there. There's like water spilling into it. It looks like waterfalls.
Yeah. So to get there, though, there were like 2 cars in all the Iron Islands, and one of them was a van that we were using. So we took a van up to like as close as we could get to the worm. Well, it was to Dunangus was where we're mostly going, and the wormhole is near Dunangus. Dunangus is like a Bronze Age fort that's not much of it's left. It's just kind of the crumbling stone. So we had to hike up there, and one of the things about me is that I don't wear pants. I only wear skirts.
Oh, I was like, hold on, that's not appropriate, Lexi. Not every country is okay with that.
I do not wear pants. I have only worn skirts since like 2013, I believe. So I was wearing a skirt and hiking over these huge rocks to get to the wormhole.
Yikes.
And that was a lot of fun. It actually was very fun. But it was a very difficult hike because it was not a flat ground that we were walking on, but it was giant, like limestone-ish rocks that we had to climb over. So imagine that. And then at the end of it, we got to the wormhole. We had lunch up at the wormhole, and then we went to Dunangus. So, and that was kind of all we did on the Iron Islands. Very, very fun, but...
When you say you had lunch at the wormhole.
Yes.
So there's a restaurant there?
No,
Is it
we
like
packed
a
lunch,
tourist
yeah.
attraction
We
then?
just packed lunch.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Dunangus is a tourist attraction, but it's not in the same way that a place would be in America as a attraction. It was just like a sign that said, this is what it is. And then you can walk around and see it.
And what is Dunangus?
Dunangus is a Bronze Age fort, or the remains of one.
Ooh.
Looking out.
So it's a ruin?
It's a ruin, yes. It's a super cool ruin.
I love me a good ruin.
Dunangus is a place I like a lot, mostly because of the its name, because it's not spelled like you would think it is, which is my favorite part about the Celtic language, is that it's not how you would think. It's very fun. Angus is spelled Aonghasa, which I think is very fun.
Okay. Am I remembering correctly that Celtic is the main language on the Aran Islands still?
Yeah. Yes, it is. There was a time when it was almost lost. But it's coming back now, and where there's a lot of, I think the only school, if there is a school, it's the people of the Aran Islands are trying to bring Celtic back as the main language and teaching younger people that.
In all of Ireland.
In all of Ireland,
Wow.
yes.
That's quite the challenge.
But yes, very much so. Yeah, they have a loyalty to the ancient Irish language, which is also the older version of Celtic.
Older than Celtic?
Yes. The old version of Celtic. What people speak in Ireland, if they speak Celtic, the version that's on the Aran Islands is not quite the same. It's an older version.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So here's how you can tell a place is remote is on Google Maps when you try to find directions to it and it says that there are not directions available.
What were you trying to get directions to?
To the island from the mainland. I finally found a ferry.
Oh, wow.
But Google Maps was, it was, kind of hard to figure that out on Google Maps, actually. So they did not want to tell me that information.
No, probably not. Yeah. Very,
Okay, so now I
very
feel like
small.
I have to try
it's so
it.
remote that they have to fly food in. Like fly groceries in.
It wouldn't
Look at
do
that.
walking directions or it wouldn't do driving or public transit. And finally I did walking directions and then it told me about a ferry.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
think,
yep.
I mean, there's roads, but mostly people got around via bike or horses.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Google Maps is saying from Galway, because I asked how to get there from Galway, walk for 10 hours and 37 minutes
Yep.
to a city, and then you can pick up the ferry to get to the island.
Yep.
I was like, what? Walk for 10 hours and 37 minutes? Okay, Google.
Yeah, definitely not in the city anymore.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
That's super
Lexi,
cool.
if someone is going to visit Galway and or Dublin, what are a couple things you would recommend they don't miss?
So my favorite things that I did that were not class related, or by that I mean nerd related. I mean, I found the James Joyce Tower very fun, but only if you like James Joyce will you find that fun whatsoever. But my favorite parts were the Guinness Storehouse in Dublin, which where they make Guinness. And
Yay.
it's by far the most amazing museum I've ever been to.
Really?
There's parts of it where you can just where you can feel the hops, where you can see the like how they manufacture and brew Guinness, and you can listen to the story of Guinness. They have a room, or actually a whole floor. It's like a couple stories tall. That's just marketing for Guinness. So all those really fun like advertisements that you've seen for Guinness, like they have them all there. Most famously, the fish riding a bicycle. He's just hanging out there.
Nice. That's
So
cool.
that was super fun. And at the top of Guinness Storehouse, it's a bar at the top, and it's I think one of the highest points in Dublin as well. So you can just and part of the price of admission is you get a free Guinness. So you can just drink the Guinness and enjoy the view, which is super fun. And they also teach you how to pour a proper Guinness, which I appreciated very much. And then my other favorite thing that I did was this is more nerdy, but the Game of Thrones tour.
Oh, I don't watch that show, but I'm guessing that would be a good tour.
It was very good. Yeah, they film a lot of Game of Thrones in Ireland, and mostly in Northern Ireland. But from Dublin, we could take a tour, which if it was a full day. A group of us did that on our one totally free day where we had nothing going on, because we had to be on the bus at like 7 a.m. and got home at like 10 p.m. I think. The full day, driving all the way up to Tullymore Forest, which was by far the most magical forest I've ever been to. And, I can't remember the name of it, but it's very close to where they filmed parts of Narnia. Imagine my
Narnia.
happiness of that. And, it was super fun. We got to see a bunch of places where they have filmed scenes from the show. Our tour guide was an extra on the show.
Oh, fun.
Which was so much fun. Just getting to hear kind of behind the scenes, like no spoilers, but this is how they filmed for 23 hours in one day.
Wow.
He played one of the wildlings, which are part of like most of the big fights he was in. So he got to talk a lot about learning how to fight, and he has a contract where he can't shave his beard.
Yeah.
Because he's also in Vikings as well, which makes sense. And then we got to meet the wolf dogs that played characters on the first season of the show. So two dog actors we got to meet.
Oh, dog
That was
actors.
wonderful. It was so fun.
That's cool.
Actors or doctors?
Dogs.
Doctors. Not confusing at all.
We met the dogs that played Summer and Greywind in the first season. So two dire wolves. And that was so much fun. And it was a very unique thing to be able to learn about the show and go on a little adventure. But then
you got to go up into Northern Ireland, which is cool.
Yeah, we got to go to Northern Ireland, which was super fun. Got to have a nice meal there. And it was very similar, like nothing really changed between Ireland and Northern Ireland in terms of like climate and stuff. But we got to see some really fun places up north, like Tullymore Forest. So
cool.
It was one of the best things.
Very cool. Anything else you want to share about your experience?
I drink a lot of Guinness. I think that was one of my favorite parts as well, was just everywhere we went, even for lunch with the class, with your professors at my Jesuit college, everyone had a beer. Everyone had a Guinness, which was a very refreshing.
So
it was a very fun way to spend a school trip, especially, and a writing school trip.
That's awesome. Well, Lexi, thanks so much for sharing about your study abroad experience. We have a couple of questions for you. So one is based on the title of our podcast, Take Me With You. If you could take us with you to just one thing on this trip, what would it be and why?
Guinness Storehouse.
All right. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Gotta do that one again. Sorry.
I would happily go there.
Yeah, it was the best museum type experience I've ever been to. And you get a free beer at the end. So, best thing ever.
Yeah, that's a pretty good museum experience if you get a free beer at the end. So,
Well, and by free, you mean it's not extra, but
I mean,
you
if you
probably
pay
technically already paid for
$15
it.
to get to a museum, and then you also get a beer, basically, yeah.
I like
Basically
it. That's good. And Lexi, what is your next trip?
I don't actually have any trips planned right now. I took way too many trips last year, so I hopefully will not have need to take one this year. But I went. I'll most likely it'll be Boston again. My friend lives there, so I've had a lot of fun visiting her.
That's awesome. Yeah. And do you have any travel questions for us?
How are you guys not anxious when you go on trips?
Ooh,
Doesn't make sense to me.
That's a good question. Okay, let me think for a minute.
Well, I think so. While Cheryl thinks, I will share my initial thoughts. Because one of the things that you mentioned was being afraid that you're going to forget something, right? Mm-hmm. I have the same fear, and a couple of things happen. One, and Cheryl and I have talked about this on the podcast before, and even had almost a full episode. I think it was one of our mini-sodes last summer about it. I have a packing list that I use pretty religiously, I guess. Like I use it all the time so that I have the things that I need. And so that if there is something that I forget on one trip, it goes on the list as soon as I realize that I forgot it, so that I won't forget it on the next trip. So I think that's part of it, is having a list that I can actually check things off and know that those things are there. That helps me not worry as much. I'm paranoid about my passport. And so I will double, triple, quadruple, whatever the next one is after that with 5, like check that I have my passport every time I transition from one location to the next, right? So I'll make sure, okay, I have it before I leave my house. And then I go down and I get in the car and I double check to make sure I have my passport. And then whenever I stop at whatever the next place is, I'm checking that I have my passport again, because that's one of those things for me that I could get anxious about. And so I just check, which is dumb because I don't need to, because it's still there, but I still do. And then I think the other thing is, for the most part nowadays, any of the places that I would travel, if there's something that I actually did forget, usually I could buy it if I really needed it. I could go to a store and I could get whatever that thing was that I needed. There's exceptions to that, of course.
Like passport.
And there are times where it's like, it wouldn't be the same one, they're the same brand or whatever that I would get, or maybe it'd be super expensive. But if it was something I truly needed, very, very often I can find it somewhere where I'm going. What about you, Cheryl?
I have a couple thoughts. I think the main answer to your question as how are we not anxious, or how am I not anxious when I travel, is that you and I have very different personalities.
I mean, yeah, number one reason is I have anxiety. Therefore,
yeah, I mean, I think that is a big thing. I think, though, going a little deeper than that, if I do have any worry about travel, my worry, and again, this just goes back to what my personality is that I'm gonna miss out on something. And so I don't worry about not packing something. I mean, I am really thorough. And, you know, like I spend a lot of time on packing before. I am I'm really big into light packing, which means I spent a lot of time on packing so that I can pare things down and really purposely think through each item I bring and if it's really worth it. And then I just don't really worry about it beyond that because I trust that I spent the time to prepare well. I show up early for things, so I don't really worry about being late because of that. But I just more worry, like, what if I don't get to do all the things I want to do? What if I miss out? But I have FOMO, so I think that's where my fear and anxiety come from a lot more than. But then also, I think the more I travel, the more comfortable I am with it, and the more it is in my comfort zone. And so, and I'm an adaptable person. I can make myself at home in a lot of places. And so I think a lot of it, it comes back to personality. And then I think also, though, just trusting myself and trusting that I packed well or things like that. So, yep. Does that help at all?
Sure.
What I find interesting, so Cheryl, the things that you just described were all internal, well, not all, but they were mostly internal. Like, I trust myself and that I'm doing this, whereas my things were all external. Right? I have a list because I don't trust myself. So it's interesting that we both do these things to not be stressed or that contribute to us not being as stressed or anxious. Yeah. And yet we go about them very different ways.
Well, okay, but I do a list too. But when I say I trust myself, I mean I trust that I already put the time in and the thought in to pack well, and that I already followed my list, and that list is made on experience and my knowledge of packing and travel. And then also there's stores all around the world, so like if I forget something, I can buy something somewhere else. Yeah, and then just letting it go after that point. Yeah. But I'm also more of like a disillusioned person where I like believe that I'm safe all of the time. And so it also helps just to have your head in the clouds.
I mean, it's definitely a less stressful life. That's for sure.
It's true. And then I married someone whose feet are firmly on the ground, and I think he has more worry than I do. So
funny how that works.
He's good for me. So, yeah.
Okay, let us transition into the last segment of this episode called Wish You Were Here. During this segment, each of the three of us is going to share about a travel attraction that we have experienced in our travels. Think of it kind of like a little postcard snapshot of, hey, there's this really cool thing that I saw. I wish you were here because it's so cool. So Lexi, what would you like to do for your Wish You Were Here?
Yeah, I would like to mention the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, which was the most fun museum I've ever been to. It's just a eclectic collection by a very, very rich lady of some of the most amazing pieces of art, all in her house. And it was just a wonderful museum in Boston.
What kind of art? Literally
all kinds of art. She has everything from famous paintings like the Sea of Galilee, some very, very famous paintings to like artifacts from old like 8th century Chinese dynasties and stuff. And she's kept them in her house. When she died, she made it a museum and told people not to touch anything, but they can look at it. So this is a very fun museum in Boston.
And it's actually her house.
Yes. It's a very, very large house.
Sure.
She's very, very, very rich. She outbid the Louvre on some pieces.
She outbid the Louvre?
Yeah. Isabella Stewart Gardner, amazing museum, outbid the Louvre. It's the source of one of the most famous unsolved art heist. Look into that. It's a super, super fun place to go, and just even if you don't like art, it's so fun.
If she outbid them.
Oh no, that's different, unrelated. Her museum is the source of a heist.
Oh, wow.
And because that in her will, she said nobody can move anything. No one can touch anything in her museum. where they stole something, there's still a blank spot on the wall.
Oh, interesting.
So it is super fun. It's been unsolved for like 30 years now.
But I mean, not that you necessarily know the answer to this, Lexi, but so in her will, she said nobody can move anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's going to enforce that? She's not here anymore.
Oh, no. Her will says that if anybody changes anything, moves anything, everything is donated to, I think it was a local college. And therefore the state won't be able to charge admission to it. So nobody moves it.
I see.
Yes.
If you have enough money, you can
And-
carry out your will beyond the grave, I guess, or
I suppose.
yeah, basically.
outbidding the Louvre just sounds like a punchline to a joke, though. Like, she's so rich.
How rich is she?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Super fun
That's
place.
cool.
Highly recommend.
Nice.
All right. Cheryl,
Yes. Ryan.
are we going to do a joint wish you were here?
Yes, this is another one that we have not been to together, but we have both been to.
Yes. I
And
think.
so,
I think we're thinking of the same thing.
yes, San Francisco, correct?
Yes.
The Ghirardelli Square. Lexi, have you been there?
I have been there, yes.
Okay.
It is beautiful.
Yay. Well, so the three of us have been there. That's very exciting. Ryan, I'm not sure if we've had the same experience there. Did you do a tour there?
I did not do a tour there. Did you do a tour there?
No. We're like learning this as we're sharing about this thing together.
No. Well, and so, because you call it Ghirardelli Square, which is its name, but the part that I'm remembering is not so much the square as it is the actual shop. It's the ice cream and chocolate shop.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
I think we're thinking of the same thing. I think
Yeah.
of it as like still the title Ghirardelli Square, but
Right, which
yes.
is true. And there's, the big sign that you can see and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But the part that I remember the most is that there's a ice cream and chocolate
Oh,
shop.
I'm so proud of you for remembering a location because of food.
Well, okay, but here's the deal,
It's 'cause it's
Cheryl.
dessert.
Most of the time,
Yep.
it's dessert and it's chocolate. Like, I'm not a foodie, but there are some things that I really like, and chocolate is one of them.
And it's
You're a
really,
desserty,
really good
yep.
chocolate.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is so good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I got a brownie sundae because I love brownies. I'm pretty sure that's what I got when I was there. And
Oh.
yeah,
Was it a Ghirardelli brownie then too? I mean, it had
probably,
to be,
yeah.
right?
Which, by the way, this really has nothing to do directly with this podcast, but Costco, you can buy the Ghirardelli brownie mix. At least Costco here. I know Costco's in different parts of the country don't all sell the same thing. And I swear those are the best brownies. They're so good.
Yeah. I think I grew up with my family getting those sometimes, and oh my goodness, they're just so rich. Yeah.
And so good.
Uh-huh.
And they're
I totally
even
agree
better
with
when
that.
they're made like at Ghirardelli, of course. But
Yeah. Awesome. So pretty much just go there and have some chocolate is I think what we have to say about that. It's a fun touristy
Yeah.
place. I'm trying to remember if we got free samples. Did you get free samples there? Did
Oh,
they
I
do
don't remember.
samples?
I don't
I don't remember that now.
And can you do a tour?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Boy, we know a lot.
But wish you were here. I mean, we always wish we had chocolate. So
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, I would say if you're in San Francisco, you're doing the touristy things, it's worth it. Like I think it's cool
Yeah,
to
'cause
go
I
there.
think it's near the
I like
waterfront,
the
isn't it?
area. Yeah. Yeah, so it's easy to visit. Now, Ryan, I have something fun to share with you. So as of
Please.
this recording, you are about to head to Disneyland.
Correct.
Do you know one of the attractions in California Adventure?
Is there a Ghirardelli chocolate attraction?
Yes.
What?
Did you not know this?
No. Now, the irony is when this episode comes out, it will have already been there. But
Yeah,
as
that's
it is
fine.
right now when we're recording, I haven't been there yet. I'm leaving in like less than a week. I'm leaving on Saturday, and today's
And
Monday.
you didn't know that it
What-
was there.
No, what is it? Because now I have to make
So-
sure I go.
Well, they do have free samples, so yes.
That's the
and
best.
you can get ice cream there. So like I'm looking even online right now and you can get their world famous hot fudge sundaes and more. And so,
Okay,
yeah,
hold on.
because we were
Let me pull up
talking
the app.
about how California
So in
Adventure
California Adventure.
was meant to kind of highlight the different areas of California and the different attractions in California. So we were talking about how like California Adventure is meant to like highlight the different regions of California and like the different, so there's like the pier and all these different things. And so they originally it was a tortilla place where you could go watch a video about how corn tortillas were made, and then you got a free tortilla sample, and there was like you could watch the tortillas being made and everything. And then they changed it to Ghirardelli, and so
Ghirardelli soda fountain and chocolate shop.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So, I mean, they haven't Disney-fied that. That's just one of the pieces that they've kept as like the California Adventure aspect of it. And it is so great. So I would highly recommend that while you're there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. It looks like it's right. You may have just said this, but I was distracted by the app so I could find where it was. So it looks like it's right outside Cars Land.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And actually,
Well, I'm excited for that.
yeah, just around the corner from it is like a good Mexican restaurant too that I think that is, so it's a good place to eat in general. And if people drink, there's also nearby, there's a place to get beer or margaritas as well. So it's just a good place for the foods. Right where that is.
All the foods.
Yep.
Sweet.
And now we're just going to get into a little bit of side notes on Disney as I've been editing our Disney episodes. But we were talking about the animation studios and how one thing that Ingrid mentioned to you is that you could meet Anna and Elsa, and you were kind of like, yeah, whatever. And so I met Anna and Elsa there 4 years ago and kind of thought like, oh, whatever, but the line's really short. And it was one of my favorite character interactions ever because they riff with you and they like had a fun interaction. And so they were like joking about how you could keep going if you came in different disguises. You could keep getting free chocolate samples at Ghirardelli. And they were like using the little ends of their braids to make like fake mustaches. And they were like, you know,
funny.
and then they were like imitating one of the characters. Who's the older Duke from Frozen? They were like imitating him and doing these like different mustaches. It was so goofy and fun. And so it was like, wow, I had no idea that my interaction with Anna and Elsa would be that fun. I thought it would just be like dumb princess times, but it was they were hilarious. They gave them jokes to tell. So anyway, there's our little, so if you're in California Adventure, go to Ghirardelli, or if you're in San Francisco, go to Ghirardelli. Wish you were here. Wrapped it back up.
There you go. Look at that. 2 for 1. Boom. And with that, we are going to bring this episode to a close. So, Lexi, would you be willing to share some photos from your trip with us?
Yes, I'll happily share some photos.
That would be awesome.
Yay!
And then we can post those on our social media accounts.
Ooh.
We are at TimWee Podcast. That's at TMWY Podcast for Take Me With You. We are on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
You can also email us at timweepodcast@gmail.com. Send us your best solution to getting over travel anxieties. We would love to hear it.
Absolutely. You can also call us and leave us a voicemail. The number there is 406-763-8699, or for easier remembering, 406-POD-TIMWEE. You can give us tips about whatever. How about, I know, why don't you tell us other places we can find really good chocolate? 'Cause that'll make me happy. All right. Also, please rate and review us on whatever you're using to listen to this podcast. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode when they come out every Monday. And we would love it if you would share about this episode on social media so more people can hear about Lexi's study abroad time in Ireland.
As always, thank you to Beth Reed Miller for the use of her awesome artwork. You can check out more of Beth's artwork at Beth Is Something. And thank you to Erica Corbin for the use of her song Round the Globe. You can listen to Erica's music wherever music is sold or streamed.
Lexi, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing about your experience with us.
Of course.
Yay!
That is it for this week's episode. So until next time, remember to take me with you.
Take me with you!
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and a little love. All the world is out there waiting to explore, and all our troubles here want them to be